As an avid train traveler, I've taken some of the most scenic train rides in the country and spent so much time in dining cars, observation cars, coach, business class, sleeper cars, you name it, I've probably experienced it on Amtrak. But there are a lot of people who do not know the difference between coach, business class, and sleeper cars. So we're gonna fix that today. Hi, my name is Sojourner, aka the Train Travel Queen, and I've spent over 200 plus hours on Amtrak rides over the years. But if you're new to Amtrak train travel and you don't know the differences between coach, business class, and sleeper cars, like what room should you pick, which class is within your budget, this is the video for you. I'm gonna break it all down so you can have the best and smoothest train travel experience. And of course, I have all my tips and tricks on my handy dandy iPad and in my Notion. I use Notion to not only plan out these videos, but to also plan out my trips and all my tips that I learned along the way. So if you see me looking down, I am just refreshing my Notion to make sure I give y'all all the scoop that I've learned over the years. And we're gonna start with the similarities. The first one being that no matter what class you are in, whether it's coach, business, or a sleeper car, you do have access to the cafe car if there is one on your train. Now, every route doesn't have one. I'm based in Milwaukee, and the Milwaukee to Chicago route, which is the Amtrak Hiawatha, that's only about an hour and a half each way, does not have a cafe car. However, if you do other routes, they definitely will have it. It's where you buy snacks. The Amtrak Borealis that goes from Chicago to Minneapolis does have a cafe car, and this is open to anyone on the train. So it doesn't matter what class of ticket you have. If you want to go and buy some snacks on the train, you can do so in the cafe car. The second thing is that there's always space for your luggage. Now, again, it may depend on the train what that space looks like. Some stations do allow you to check a bag. Some stations do not. You want to look that up before you go. But all of the trains that I have been on have had some sort of overhead bin space for your luggage storage or for your carry-on. I know on the Amtrak Pacific Surfliner from LA to San Diego, there was luggage space in the back of the train, and I was on business class. And when I rode the Amtrak Maple Leaf from New York City to Niagara Falls, there was overhead space where I could put my backpack if I wanted to, or leave my other smaller item by my seat. But across all classes, you still do get luggage storage in some capacity. And the last similarity is that you do get access to a bathroom. I get this question a lot about if there is a bathroom on the train and what does that look like. I will say the bathrooms are not my favorite thing on any train, let alone an Amtrak train, but you want to keep that in mind. So you might want to bring some Lysol or some Clorox wipes if you are a bit of a germaphobe, but you will have access to a bathroom during your train ride. All right, now let's talk about the different classes of trains. So you do have coach class, business class, and sleeper car / first class on Amtrak. And before I discovered what sleeper cars were in 2021, the majority of my experiences on the train were in coach. And coach are your regular Amtrak seats, and they are the most budget-friendly option of all three. I know some routes advertise, and I think they also say on the Amtrak website that coach has Wi-Fi. I would say it's hit or miss, and for me it's been more of a miss than a hit, so I don't really trust Amtrak Wi-Fi for the most part. So I always bring other things to do while I'm riding in coach or any of the other classes as well, but especially in coach, I don't rely on that. I download my movies on my iPad, I bring books, bring my junk journal, all that good stuff to keep me busy and occupied when I'm in coach. Most coach is first come, first serve seating. So if you want a window seat, for example, you want to get there pretty early so you can get in line and grab that window seat. However, I will say this does vary. For example, I took the Amtrak Crescent from Charlotte to DC last year, as well as I took it from Atlanta to Charlotte. And that one, they did give me an assigned seat on the Atlanta to Charlotte route, which was a night train. However, on the Hiawatha from Milwaukee to Chicago, on the Borealis from Milwaukee to Minneapolis, that was also in coach, and those seats weren't assigned. I don't know how they decide what coach seats are assigned and what coach seats aren't assigned, but most are unassigned seats. And there's also a quiet car that I find a lot of people in coach like to opt for if they do want a quieter experience. I see this a lot on the Amtrak Hiawatha from Milwaukee to Chicago. I've also seen it on the Acela, and the Acela is different because they don't even have coach. They only start with business class, and those seats are also assigned. So you have to look for the quiet car symbol on the train. You kind of got to do that research before you go with the very specific route that you are taking. And also, similar to most of the coach routes, those seats are also unassigned and first come, first serve. So if you're looking for the most budget-friendly option on Amtrak, your best option is always going to be coach. The next class of train is business class, and the biggest difference between coach and business is not only the price, but also the size of the seats and the number of the seats that you can choose from when booking. So business class is a bit more spacious. On the majority of the business class rides I've been on, the seats have been like this big brown color. You can also get single seats if you are a solo traveler, which I really like about business class. I think there are about 15 seats in most business classes, and also because it's less people, it's not as loud as coach. In my experience, it is a bit harder to find business class seats in the Midwest. I know the Borealis offers business class, and sometimes now the Hiawatha may offer it too, but for the most part, I found the most business class seat options to be on the coast. So I've taken it on the Pacific Surfliner from LA to San Diego. I've taken on the Down Easter. If you really want to try out business class, I would say try out the coast. They do say they offer Wi-Fi, and I mean, I feel like I almost had it on my business class ride when I took the Amtrak Cascades from Portland, Oregon to Vancouver, Canada a few years ago, but I would still say it's been more of a miss than a hit, but you may get it a little bit better in business class if you're lucky. Normally in business class, you get a complimentary snack or drink. I've gotten wine before, I've gotten a snack box, I've gotten tea, I've gotten like a muffin or cookie. So there is like a slight little perk included with your ticket, but I will say it varies based on the route you're on. And in some cases, you just get a discount. So on the Cascades from Portland, Oregon to Vancouver, I just got a $3 discount from the cafe car. So again, it varies, and there is no way to confirm what you'll get. You kind of just show up and they tell you. Unless you're on the Acela, it is first come, first serve seating, even in business class. The only business class when I've had to choose my seat when booking has been on the Acela that I took from New York City to DC. As far as prices, I would say it's normally with an asterisk, double the price of coach. So that's kind of a general rule of thumb. I'm not saying every route is going to be like that, but when I was looking at either taking coach or business class to go to Niagara Falls last summer, I believe the business class was $120-ish and the coach was $60. If you want to spend the extra money to get the extra space, to get some amenities and maybe a bit more peace and quiet on your train ride, you want to consider taking business class. And if you're like me and you want to go all out on a long distance train ride in the US, you want to look into the sleeper cars. Now, I thought I was just gonna take one sleeper car in my lifetime and go about my business, but now I've taken so many and I have a whole train travel focused channel about it. So you never know what could happen, but sleeper cars are very popular for cross country or longer distance train travel. And you have the option of a roomette or a bedroom. I've taken the roomette, so I'm gonna focus most of my tips and advice about that. However, if you are more than 2 people, because a room is made for 1 or 2 people, you might want to consider one of the bedroom options that you can find on Amtrak's website. And private rooms, aka the sleeper cars, are not found on every route. However, on the super scenic or popular ones like California Zephyr from Chicago to Emeryville, California, the Empire Builder from Chicago to Portland or Seattle, the Coast Starlight from LA to Seattle or Portland, are pretty popular routes that have sleeper cars. I also took it from Chicago to LA. So the longer distance ones tend to be the ones that have the rooms. Depending on the segment you're booking, they may not always be available based on how long other people are going to be in the rooms, like me, who takes them the whole entire way. And again, roomettes are meant for 2 people. And people have asked me, have I ever had to share with a stranger? And the answer is no, because generally when booking, you book the whole room by itself. They never put anybody else in the room. However, a few people have mentioned that has happened, but that has not happened to me thus far on my experiences. Obviously, this is the pricier option of all 3. It's going to be way more expensive than business class and coach. I think the least amount I paid for has been $400 or so, and that's when I was sharing with my sister from LA to Seattle on the Coast Starlight. But the most expensive one was the Southwest Cheap. I did a whole breakdown of that train ride plus how I planned a US summer train trip last year that I will link somewhere in the video or in the description box below. And this is the only fare that includes all of your meals and food, like real meals. The cafe car has snacks and like cup noodles, I think pizza and some other things, but I've had a bunch of other stuff that you don't see in the cafe car in the dining car. I've had pasta, I've had salads, I've had veggie burgers. I love the desserts on the train. I've had stuffed potatoes. So the menu is way more expansive than what you see in the cafe car. Breakfast is normally you go when you wake up. Lunch and dinner, they'll give you a ticket with a time to go in the dining car. And again, I think this is perfect for a multi-day train ride just because it's convenient. You don't have to worry about packing a cooler or anything like that because all of your food will be just there on the train with you. I did mention you get shower access when you do book a room, and I have a whole video on train travel essentials if you're curious about watching that. It'll also be in the description box below because I talk about the importance of shower shoes because it is a shared shower. So I believe in one of the family rooms you do get a shower in the room, but if you're in a roomette you do share a shower, and so I personally like to have my flip-flops with me. If you were on a West Coast route, those routes have the observation cars which you can sit in and enjoy the views. Unfortunately, the East Coast routes do not have that. However, you also get a window in your room. So if you literally want to just sit in the room the entire train ride and not really talk to people outside of perhaps the dining car, you can also do that in your room too because there is a window. So you have your own little mini observation car, which is another great perk of buying a room. And no matter if you're in coach as well, you also get access to that same observation car. So the observation car and the cafe car are 2 places where everyone can access it. And as a solo traveler, it makes it so easy for me just to book one thing and I get everything I need. I get my transportation, I get my hotels as accommodations on the train when I'm in a roomette, and I get all my food with one click of a very expensive button. However, I do think it's worth it if you want to try a sleeper car experience. And with your roomette / sleeper car ticket, you do get access to the Amtrak Metropolitan lounges, which I don't think a lot of people know. Amtrak has lounges. You're considered first class and you get access to that. I love the one in New York and Chicago. Those are probably my 2 favorite ones I've been in. They're very beautiful. The one in New York, I believe, is the one with the free food and drink, so you don't actually have to pay for anything when you're in there. So it's nice little snack foods. And Chicago also has some snacks and stuff available for free in their lounge. And you can also, with business class, get access to the Metropolitan lounges, but it really depends on the route because that was not a thing on the East Coast routes. However, when I was on the West Coast and took business class to Vancouver from Portland, I did get access to that lounge. So again, you got to check the website to see what actually included because sometimes the perks can vary. So which one should you choose for your trip? I cannot answer that for you exactly, but I will say it really depends on your budget and also the length of time. So for example, I would not book a private room for a 3-hour train ride. I would just go ahead and book coach because I'm not going to be on the train that long. So there's a lot of different factors you want to consider when deciding which room class or which class of train is good for you. It also depends on when you're booking because I went to Niagara Falls last 4th of July here in the US and it was packed. I tried to book business class, but it sold out so quickly. So if you know you're traveling around a holiday like Labor Day, Memorial Day, 4th of July, you want to make sure you book far enough advance to get the ticket that you want. And if you want to take the roomette but not for the entire time, you can purchase different legs of the trip. So say for one day you do want to be in the roomette, you can do that, but the next day you may decide to book a coach class ticket. You can kind of do that in the Amtrak app and on the website to figure out how to save money but also get the experience of the room if you want to. But my general rule of thumb is that if the train ride is like under 10 hours or so, I can probably just go ahead and book coach or business over a room, but that again is up to you. That is all I have for you. Leave any other questions or comments below. Don't forget to check out my train travel vlogs and playlists. I have way more resources and tips in the description box below to help you plan your first US train trip. And I have a train travel checklist that can help you plan your first train ride from start to finish, also in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed me and my mini notes on my Notion, and maybe I will see you on the rails. Bye, stay curious.